We are MMS Inspirational. We are a faith-based, music-focused podcasts created by producer Ronald Tyke Oliver. MMS Inspirational Podcast is the place to be inspired, encouraged, meditate, unwind, relax, reflect, and enjoy the goodness of God's Word and positive messages through amazing music. Listen to us on Apple, Spotify, and Amazon. Check out MMS Inspirational and be blessed.
We've been made endure for a night, but joy comes in.
A year-by-year guide on how to get rich, supposedly. And I'm going to talk to you about communication. It's all the rage. Enjoy! Welcome to the Age of Jeremy. My name is Jeremy Quintanilla. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you're new to this podcast, it is all about my business adventures and side quests. If you don't know, I have multiple businesses, some of them being 3-2 Warrior Academy, Freedom Insurance, Blockheads, the creator of Merlin, the smartest way to track your crypto, and of course, Age of Radio, one of my favorites. I also do an Age of Radio show called Mercury, and you are also listening to an Age of Radio original here, Age of Jeremy. I also am on the New Wealth Transfer podcast, but essentially, this podcast is all about my learnings and dealings, learnings, all of my learnings as I navigate through business. And it is always interesting to me how business constantly can change, how I am constantly looking at myself and thinking of things that I can do better. And that's what I want to talk to everybody today about, especially as it relates to my communication and the way in which sometimes I let my emotions lead me, or maybe I don't stop to think as much. I've done a lot of thinking, reflecting on that over this last weekend. I went to Sedona, Arizona, had a beautiful time with my partner, Maria. We went to the Hilton up there, the Tapestry. They have the worst pillows in history, so that was good. But we were able to do some Reiki sessions. We were able to go see some vortexes. I was able to get in touch with my mystical self a little bit more. I was also able to kind of meditate and ponder on the future of my media empire, not just as Age of Radio, but also my personal media and the personal content that I'm doing. The more and more that I do podcasts, the more and more I continue to feel that they are the most important aspect of media right now. And I believe that if you have a podcast and you have a voice, you should share that. And podcasts make it a little bit easier for us to do that. But before we get started, go and follow me on Instagram. If you're listening to this not on YouTube, go over to YouTube, follow my Age of Jeremy channel as well, continuously trying to figure out how to get vlogs up in a meaningful fashion up there. There's only a limited amount of time to work, and I try to put in about 55 hours a week. After that, it gets a little bit difficult, and I get a little bit cranky, I'm not going to lie. And I expect people around me to, at least my teammates, to put that in. I don't know if maybe that's being too harsh, but that's what I expect, because it takes a lot of time and energy and effort to build empires. And if you really want to reach your goals, I believe that's something that you have to do. Before we go into the main topics today, which is the communication piece, I do want to talk about a year-by-year guide to help you retire rich. Now, I read Bloomberg's. I watch Bloomberg live in the mornings usually. I've been listening to more market investment news as well. I am a subscriber to the Wall Street Journal, The Economist, Market Watch, Barron's. I don't think you have to do all of those things, but I recommend that you read the news, get involved with financial markets, financial news. I have some cool ideas of things that I might do into the future regarding that for my media empire that relates to Jeremy. But nonetheless, Bloomberg's is one of my favorite media sources, and they have a year-by-year guide to help you rich. Now, this came out on April 15th of 2026, and this is by Suzanne Woolley, or Woolley. And if I'm not mistaken, Suzanne Woolley is a personal finance reporter for Bloomberg News. She was a reporter and editor at Business Week and Money magazines as well. Daydreaming about life after work is one thing. Making sure you've got enough capital for that eventual reality is another thing entirely. She writes, retirement planning and saving can feel like a long climb toward a distant summit. One word, the paths you choose along the way: saving, investing, managing taxes, shaping your lifestyle, influence how arduous your journey will be. And while the right steps put you on a steady path, it's possible to take a wrong turn. And so she has this, and I've mentioned this before, there's a 30 years to go, 20 years to go, 10 years to go, 5 years to go, 2 years to go, 1 year to go. Now, I think a lot of people are going to be in this 20 years to go camp. And I think that I spoke to individuals about this before, but I want to go a little bit deeper into this with the 30 years to go camp, because as opposed to maybe some of the people that are around me, I have a different view of retirement. I think when you retire, you can do more of those specific creative outlets that you want to do, kind of like the things that I'm doing now, this podcast, with my Instagram channels, with my media empire, or my personal media empire. And I think that when we look at this, when we look at that, I think that, retirement, if you're always, the problem with retirement, let me start here. The problem with retirement is it's about a number that you're just going to then live off of without any reference point to continuing to make income in some capacity. A lot of people have this mindset that we're indoctrinated with inside of the schooling system, that we're going to get a job, we're going to have a 401k, we're going to get to that number, we're going to stop working, and then we get to do the things that we want. The trick is being able to manage life and do the things that you want while you're doing that. And also to realize that you can make income forever if you really try and you're really building something up for yourself. And so last time I did this, I think I did the 20 years to go, because that's where I put myself in that bucket as maybe a millennial. But 30 years to go seems more where I think that I'm really at, someone that 40 is really at. So biggest moves that Suzanne says is start tax efficient savings. What she writes here is, listen, don't feel pressure to squirrel away every penny while you're in your late 20s or 30s. Enjoy life. You're only young once. And the fact that you're reading this guide suggests that you got the right goals in mind. So start tax efficient savings. So what really are tax efficient savings? So aim to save at least 15% of pre-tax income on your expected annual earnings if you're self-employed. Consider any employer match a sort of bonus savings account. Workers and employee sponsor retirement plans such as 401ks or 403bs should attempt to capture the full company match if one is offered. Now, that is true. You could go that route. I'm not a big fan of 401ks, but I don't think that means if you're working, you should not go and get a 401k. There's a company match. Some of them match, say, like 6%. So essentially what she's saying here is that start tax efficient savings. And so 401ks, they are income that you put into the 401k, and then that income comes off of, that money that gets put in the 401ks comes out of what you would specifically get taxed on. Okay. And then you have to pay taxes on it when you take it out, and on the gains in it when you take it out as well. So essentially you could do those. I'm not a huge fan of them. I had one when I was in the bank, but what I would tell people, if you're just starting out and you're not doing a lot of research, this is one simple thing that you could do. Just focus on these tax efficient savings through 401ks and or 403bs. And you can match up to what the company offers. So like if the company offers, say, a 6% match, And for example, if you make $100, they're going to match up to $6, for an example. So if you put $6 in, they're going to put $6 in. You want to do that because that's extra money that you're leaving on the table. Now, some people might say that, hey, look, I could go get better money somewhere else. And that's traditionally my outlook on it. But for someone that doesn't want to do their own research in regards to it and just follow that pattern, do that up to that match, because that's money that they have as part of the benefits package or part of your overall employee employee pay that you are just leaving on the table that they're not going to give you otherwise. So you might as well take advantage of it. Additionally, what she says, if your income allows, max out your annual contributions to an individual retirement account, which is capped at $7,500 in 2026 for those under 50. Self-employed individuals consider opening a solo 401k. One big perk, you can potentially shelter up to $72,000 a year. And that's really important. And I like that she's pointing this out because the solo 401ks not talked enough. There's also solo IRAs that exist, and the benefits of both of these. Well, I guess it's not called the solo IRA. It's called the self-directed IRA, and solo 401ks can be self-directed. And what the self-direction means is that rather than having to adhere to the plan investments, like what the plan says that you can invest in, you could go and open up these accounts wherever. So for example, if I had a solo 401k or a solo or a self-directed IRA, I could use the documentation that I get from the company that I open it up with, and I could go and say, open up a Coinbase account. And then the Coinbase account would be in essentially the name of the self-directed IRA, and I can get those tax efficient savings while investing in, say, cryptocurrency. So again, I like that she pointed that out. It doesn't go into too much other information on it, but that is something that you could specifically do. And because you're not paying me for this podcast, I can give you all the financial advice in the world. Just remember that financial advice can be free, but it can also be bad. So I'm not opposed to that. I'm really more an advocate for that self-directed IRA and a solo 401k. And the great thing about the solo 401k is you can go up to $72,000 a year. There's also some really interesting things a part of a solo 401k where I think that you can borrow against it. You can put homes inside of it. You can do all kinds of things with it because they are self-directed plans. So you can do a lot more tax advantage savings in them or preferred tax. Like it's not going to save you on taxes per se. Like you won't save taxes on it, but it can push them down the road, and maybe down the road, the way in which you receive your income, maybe it's all through dividend income, and you can pay a lot less in taxes later on. So again, you can talk to a financial advisor about it. They should have tax strategies around this. If your tax advisor or your tax strategist or your financial advisor doesn't know about solo 401ks or self-directed IRAs, go get another one. I have a lot of personal opinions about the financial advising world. And again, we're moving more into that with our company Q Financial, or my company Q Financial, which be on the lookout for some of that stuff into the future. And if you want some tax advice or some tax help, you can reach out to me at qfinancialllc.com, and we can help you out with that as well. And again, that's qfinancialllc.com. The other things that she says is how you can kind of catch up. How much should you have saved? And this is something that I don't think that we talk about a lot. Again, I found this article hidden inside of Bloomberg's money section, and we don't obviously teach these things in school. I'm not 100% sure. I have a difference of opinion on what we should specifically teach in school as it relates to investments. And one of those things is, I do believe that we should share that children are going to need to have money to live off of after they decide to stop working. When you're younger, you think you're going to live forever. You don't think that that's going to catch up with you. But I tell you, kids, if you're listening to this, that time goes by really, really fast, especially if you are getting stuck in a monotonous, everyday, being repetitive situation. If you're not breaking up that time and doing things to try new experiences, not be stuck in a repetitive thing, when you do that, time slows down. If you listen to some of my other episodes, I mentioned that's something that I'm specifically trying to do. And my time is drastically slowed down over this last year. In fact, this is one of the longest years I've ever had, and it's beautiful. because of the fact that I have been breaking up my time, trying new things, doing things with friends, really focusing on different health metrics. And the fact that we're in June, I don't look at that and be like, man, time flew by. I said, man, it's only June right now. That's amazing. And you could do that too. Just go research how to kind of slow down time. But one of the things that they should teach is how much should you save? Because we don't have like a ballpark. Now, again, I think there's some things that are wrong with the traditional, we have to have $1 million. $1 million is only going to get you, based off of a 4% rule, like 40 grand a year. Like, who can live off of 40 grand a year? You probably could, but I want to travel when I retire. I want to go and hang out in Canada more. I want to go hang out in Colorado more. I want to go to New Zealand. I want to go and travel around the country. It might be more than $40,000. We should not be spending our whole fucking life trying to get to the point where we retire so that then we can barely live and not do the things that we want to do and experience. That being said, however, we need to have some kind of focal points and some kind of starting points to get us on our investment journey or investment research journey. So how much should you have saved as you prepare for retirement? Some of the guidelines could be based off of your salary. So if your salary is $70,000 by age 35, you should have $105,000 saved up. So if we look at that for some type of comparison here, let's look at percentage wise. Let's see what percentage of your annual salary should you have saved by the time you're 35. So if we take 70 divided by 105, that's 67%. So 67% of, well, it'd be 167%. That's not right. It would be 60. Hold on. I'm not mathing correctly. 70,000 is 67% of $105,000. $105,000 is 1 year's salary, about a year and a half, little over a year and a half's worth of salary is what you should have saved. Okay. 90,000 should be 140,000. 100,000 should be 85,000. So let me see if I do this the other way. 105 divided by 70 would be 1.5 times. Let's see if that maths out to everything. 140 divided by 90. This is why you should know math, kids. That's about 1.5 again. So if we take, if we make 100,000, it says 85,000. I think that's weird that it goes down. I would say have 1.5 times your salary, but what she puts in here is 100,000 should be 85,000, 125,000 should be 100,000, 150,000 should be 110,000, 175,000 should be 115,000. I would say have 1.5 times your salary save would be a much better space. If you're making $300,000, you should be able to have $450,000 saved by the time you're 35. My guess is that these numbers are going down and adjusting based off of the fact that you might not have had as long of time in that higher level salary, because the thought process is as you get older and you get more mature in your career, you're going to have those larger salaries. So it might adjust. And this is from JP Morgan Asset Management. Calculations assume a 10% saving rate for households with gross income. I say try to get that to 10 to 20%. And then create an income surge system is what she's recommending. If you're in your 20s or 30s and haven't been able to save as much as you want, bonuses, tax refunds, and side income all present opportunities to accelerate long-term savings. So I think that's very interesting. Bypassing benefits. Don't be on autopilot during open enrollment periods at your workplace. There are crucial windows to adjust your planning. If your employer doesn't offer a health savings account, see if it offers flexible spending. I agree with both of those. In fact, if you have a self-directed health savings account, you could invest in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, delay paying taxes on some of those items, and have more money for medical bills, which for me is really important because I have type 1 diabetes. That is at an AC9. I need to get to about an AC7. Working on that, folks. Working on that. Wish me luck. Pray for me. And so the point is that if diabetes continues to get worse as you get older, right, and eventually does or can also lead to Alzheimer's and all other kinds of stuff. If that's the case, then I need to have a backup plan and shouldn't rely just on insurance. A health savings account that's a self-directed HSA can be very beneficial. Okay. One of the things that I agree with is 100% that she mentions is that you want to ignore lifestyle creep, whether in an app or with a spreadsheet, track your spending. That's one of the things that's been happening to me lately. Obviously, we're continuing to grow and our money's kind of increasing. I recently had set up a new budget system on Quick and Simplify. And so the problem is that I haven't been putting a lot of time every like week or every other week to look at it. And I can sometimes see some lifestyle creep start to change, going out to eat more. I bought some new clothes so I could go out and do some nice things with my partner. Right. Obviously I'm in the process of a divorce, so I'm going to pay alimony. That's a lifestyle creep, I suppose. And right, sometimes you just start buying more stuff. I love equipment. I buy more equipment. I've been putting more money into businesses. That could be considered a lifestyle creep, I suppose. I guess that's not necessarily a lifestyle creep. I have the Sequoia, but we're putting that on Turo. So again, it's not as happening as bad as it could be happening, but it does happen a little bit. And you need to be mindful of that. The more you micromanage something, the more you're going to benefit from it. And again, the last thing that she says, grow your earning potential. And I think that that's the best one. I think one of the things that we don't talk enough about getting ahead in life is two things. One, we don't talk enough about higher education. We do not talk enough about upskilling. And so the thing that's going to differentiate you in this world, and I will stand on it right now, at least, until I see other indicators, that other data that doesn't support this, I don't give a shit what degree you get. You will be more likely to make millions of dollars more than an individual that does not have a college degree. This isn't about going and becoming an entrepreneur. Sometimes there are things that you have a talent for. There are things that you love, that you want to go and you want to study. My cousin, he's going to school for, I want to say political science or history as it relates to political history. And his girlfriend is going to school to be a bug scientist. Can't remember what the term is, an entomologist, I think. And she's probably going to go on and be a PhD. She's probably going to write papers on bugs. She's going to put out books. She's going to do research. That's badass. She can still have a very successful, lucrative life if she does the second thing that I'm going to mention. So first thing, go to get a higher education. Yes, I think that you have a talent for something, that you're good at something. If you're the thing that you have a talent for, go and get a degree in that thing, utilize that, build a career out of it, use that money to do things that you enjoy, and then use your money to the second thing, invest. And I don't mean just invest in these things that I just mentioned here. You need to invest in things that produce reoccurring income. I am building a portfolio right now of dividend income producing ETFs and stocks. Okay. Some of them are option income producing ETFs. And essentially those are things like Yield Max, where the ETF mimics a specific stock, and then the company sells different types of options, investments, or calls or puts to gain income, and that income, and then some of the capital comes back to the investors in a form of a dividend on a regular basis. Okay, those are more high risk. Then there's mid risk ones that are like, high yield dividend ETF by, say, like iShares or by JP Morgan. And then you have companies that give good dividends that are designed not to be a growth stock, that are designed to be a dividend income producing stock over periods of time, where they'll grow that dividend yield. They'll do it on a continuous basis because, again, companies don't have to pay out a dividend if they decide not to. Okay. And so those things create passive income, right? It's passive income that's coming into you, and it's passive income that's not stupid. Say going and becoming an MLM person, right? Or going and starting another type of business that takes a bunch of hours to get the passive income to start coming through, right? Now, again, you are probably putting in hours at your job, but you're taking that money that you're making at your job, and some of that's going into something that's producing you income through a portfolio. Okay. Again, you could do the thing that you love. You could make money and you could start, laundry mats. You could buy investments. You could buy businesses. There's other things that you can do besides your main career path. The thing that makes you your first money, to take that other money and put it into something that produces other income. It could be go into IPOs pre-IPOs once you get to a certain threshold of wealth, or you go get a Series 65, or you make $250,000 a year or more. Okay. And again, my point is that we don't teach people those two things enough. We're living in this society where we're telling kids not to go to school, that they need to teach all these other fucking things in school. It's ridiculous. There are things that need to be also taught in school, but the more people that I meet that are going through our schooling system, or people that are not going through the schooling system, and their ability not to think critically, their ability not to read for long periods of time, their ability not to continuously fail over and over again and get back up and go. You learn those things in college. There's so many things that you learn in college that you should do. Now, should you be forced to do what your parents want you to do? Absolutely not. You need to find your talent, the thing that you're good at. Hopefully it's also a thing that you love. And then you need to go and focus on making money with that. And then as that money comes in, invest not only in 401ks and all the things that the experts tell you, but also invest in things that produce you monthly, quarterly, and yearly dividend income. Some of them you can even get set up to get regular weekly income from. Okay. And as I mentioned before, I'm working on a portfolio that looks at how risky these things are and what can we build in to reduce the risk of the net asset value getting eroded, which I'm not going to go into that here, but you can go and read about it. Go read about dividend income through ETFs and net asset value, what it is, and how it can erode over time from riskier dividend products. So again, this is a Bloomberg article. Go read it. Go look at what you need to be at as far as your savings, right? I don't know how old all of you are, obviously, because I don't know all of you, but go and see what you should have in place. There's some metrics, I can't remember off the top of my head, that can help you calculate what you should be at. But maybe like 1.5 times by the time you're 35 is a good number. But this is a article on Bloomberg. I'm going to send you a free article version of it, version of it, so you don't have to have a Bloomberg subscription inside of my Dope Insights and Updates. I'm not 100% sure if everybody can access that. Maybe only one person can access that. I don't know how that works, but it's cool if all of you can access that free one. I guess that'd be kind of weird because everybody would get this free article, but go check it out. Be the first one on there. Go to Dope Insights and Updates instead on my Age of Jeremy Instagram channel. I'll throw out this link there and make sure that you read it. And just remember, you still have time. I know you may not think it is, and a little bit over a long period of time can go a long way. There's nothing more powerful than compound interest. And there's nothing more powerful than if you have a dividend portfolio that you're taking that money and putting it into growth assets that can beat inflation. Again, this is a show about my business adventures. So these are the business adventures part. Last week was very frustrating for myself, to say the least. I think that one of the biggest things for me that I need to communicate better. And I found that out doing some Reiki sessions and some sessions on my throat chakra, which is usually an indicator that you have communication blockages. One of them is because I kind of keep a lot of things to myself unless I absolutely have to say something. Two, I disagree sometimes on religious aspects of things, and so I just keep my mouth to myself, or my words to myself, my body to myself. Something gets kept to myself with a lot of those specific things. But more importantly, sometimes I'm overly judgmental on others, and can be, but also I'm trying to move everything forward the way that I need to move it forward. And I also think that people don't think of other situations sometimes when they're assessing things, which is, again, a thing that I think leaders need to do a lot better in general in corporations and in businesses, and something that hopefully I can do better. But even I fall into that trap of not thinking about those things as well. So there was a situation where that there was something that was getting messed up inside of a process that we have, and we had to go, and myself and another team member, we had to go and deep dive that kind of like after hours, because I needed it to be fixed right then and there. And I think one of the misconceptions is that those are things that I enjoy. I don't really enjoy those specific things. Again, I'm a big believer that I used to think that people should follow their passion. They could find a way to make money with it. And I think that that's true. But I think that they could even find more money with their talent. Some people are talented at something that they're not passionate about. And for me, a lot of that is very true, because there are things that I'm talented at is from an analytical perspective, because I wanted to make a lot of money, which worked out. And now I use that money to do the things that I'm specifically passionate about, like media and doing these things, and music and so forth. And so I think that that's one of the biggest misconceptions. And then sometimes I feel that I'm being dragged into doing certain things that other people could easily have done or figured out or been a part of, but most people hand off stuff. One of the biggest things that happens with leadership is delegation. And that's one of the reasons why I'm actually an advocate for Elon Musk, because he believes in that and I don't know this 100%, and I haven't gone through his Walter Isaacson book, so I'm not 100% sure this is true, but the way that I perceive it, and from things that I've read in the past, is he's like a doer. Like, he does the stuff. For Christopher Nolan's a doer too. There was an instance on Dunkirk where I think Cillian Murphy or someone had to go on a top of a big submarine ship or whatever, and the crew was worried that it wasn't safe. So Christopher Nolan was like, fine, I disagree, so forth. And he went out and actually specifically did it. And so, or there's coaches that, like Coach Wooden, wouldn't ask his players to do anything that he wouldn't do. And so I think that what ends up happening in delegation when you get into upper leadership and upper management is you get so used to doing that you forget to at least get a good understanding of the things that you're asking others to do, so that you could get a good grasp on what those things are, which can be very taxing sometimes, especially if you're trying to give advice or trying to understand things to make them better in multiple different departments. Because again, you have to be a master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one, which is the full saying. The full saying of that is essentially that people that know more of the things and how to do them are better than someone who just spent time doing the one specific thing. It's kind of like that saying where, like, Bruce Lee, I don't know Bruce Lee. I'm a fan of Bruce Lee. I like watching his movies. I'm just going to say this might frustrate a lot of people. I'm more in the Quentin Tarantino camp on Bruce Lee. If you don't know what I mean by that, go look it up. But essentially, Bruce Lee said, I would more feared of the man who trained on one kick 1,000 times. Well, that's stupid, because that means that you only have to learn how to block one kick. That's the most ridiculous thing ever. You have no other tools in your tool belt but one badass kick. Okay, cool. If I know that he's just working on that one kick, I'm going to learn how to block that one kick. And then I'm going to learn also how to block some other kicks, do some other kicks, maybe not 1,000 times. I'm going to learn 5 kicks 1,000 times and work even harder. And then I'm going to be able to outperform that person, which is why I like when Brad Pitt beats the shit out of Bruce Lee inside of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, because that's what I think would actually happen. But again, whatever. This is my opinion. Just sharing my thoughts. And so, again, there's a situation where I had to deal with that. And then that caused frustration, because the solve, from my perception anyways, and this is where I need to get better, my perception of one of the solves was something that I think that was ridiculous, right? When we have all of the tools that are capability, we should be hiring people. We should be hiring people in our businesses that provide the most value to the organization as a whole, and where we don't have to do something that can be allocated through technology, right? So if there's a way to get something solved through technology, while there might be mistakes, let's focus on the solve through the technology so we can save that money and allocate that resource somewhere else that can provide us much more value into the future than if we use that in some other specific area. And that's what the role of managers and finance leaders are in an organization, to make sure that those allocation of resources is good, right? And that it's not just, okay, well, we can just hire this person to do that. Just because you have money doesn't mean that you need to spend it, right? It is spending it on the right things that make you better at it. And if mistakes happen while you do that solve, that's how innovation and improvement happens. Okay. So I believe that, and I'm going to stick to that. And that's what I believe that you should stick to. Where I need to get better is not getting so frustrated in situations where I feel that I am right. I can explain that I'm right. And you should just listen to me because I know what I'm talking about, which has been a problem with me my entire life and probably why I am not currently married anymore. And hopefully doesn't lead to a second divorce sometime in the future. Because that is one of my biggest problems. And that is a communication problem. And that is something that I have been thinking about a lot over this last weekend on how I can do that better, how to be less angry in those difficult situations. And when I think about it, the number one thing that I think about is stoicism and control over your emotions. If you don't have control over your emotions, you'll never have free will. You will never have free will until you know how you feel. Okay. And so that goes back to, again, the thing that I preach, and maybe the thing that I have not been doing as much because I've been working so much, is that meditation piece. Ironically, one of the people that I saw over the weekend, she said that one of the things that I need to do better on is, getting in touch with my divine femininity or feminine, because I'm stuck in masculine, which is that creation, which is that moving, which is that forcefulness, and not taking time on the restorative piece of it to make yourself better. And that is 100% something that I do believe that I have been that I have not been doing. Okay. And so for me to get better with that control over that anger and the control of those emotions, because anger is one of the biggest poisons in Buddhism, is more of that meditation. I feel that everything has to do with meditation. And I feel that if you are in one of these camps, or not camps, if you are in if you feel that you need to be better at communication, communication is usually flawed because we're leading our communication through an emotional response. And so to have control over that emotional response, we have to spend more time in that meditative state. And so I think that that's really important, which then will also help for pause before responding. A lot of the times we want to get to our responses and we don't stop to really listen and reflect on what is being said. And a lot of times, if we listen to more of what is being said and pause in those situations, a delayed response can usually be more powerful, right, than an emotional reaction. And even if it's 10 seconds or 30 seconds or 40 seconds, it can allow for us to think. And that's one of the problems that I have is I always want to not have gaps between speaking. Not necessarily that I'm thinking in those gaps, but I feel like other people don't want that silence. So I don't always do that silence. And that's something that I am going to continue to work on to be a better leader. And I recommend that you work on to be a better leader. The other thing that works in these types of difficult situations is separate intent from the impact. Not everyone who frustrates you is trying to disrespect you. Many problems come from stress, fear, or misunderstanding. And I think that I get caught in that, and I think other people might get caught in that, is that there is some type of disrespect around frustration. And there's not a disrespect around frustration. In fact, the reason why democracies work so well in the long term is because of the fact that people are disagreeing with each other and trying to get their points across and being frustrated with the situations that are arising. So there has to be a change in like a disrespect vis-a-vis a frustrated. So just because I'm getting frustrated in a situation, it doesn't mean that that other person is disrespecting me or thinking a certain way about me. It just means that they're frustrated in the situation, or a lot of time I'm frustrated in the situation, and I definitely don't mean to disrespect anyone. The other thing that I've had that I've talked to psychologists about, two things. One, don't swear a lot. I swear a lot. When you swear, it tends to be an indicator that you're okay with raising your voice, because they're forceful words. So when you swear, you tend to end up then start raising your voice more. And when you start raising your voice, right, you tend to escalate the emotional response that you're feeling from the situation. So in those cases, it's better to keep your voice low instead of raising it, which can be hard for me because either I'm going deaf or I just tend to have a very loud voice. So I should probably check into that because I'm a very loud person. And that's something that probably should work on for these types of situations. The other thing that I don't do, and I think that this is because a lot of the times people take emergencies and they take the emergency that they're experiencing, and then they push that out into a time period in which it should not be pushed out. So for example, when somebody asked me about something, it was in the evening time, past the usually cutoff time that I have. And I feel that people have hours, or they have times where they do things. A lot of them do things in the morning. I tend to do my things in the evening. So my non-negotiable usually is I don't like to be messaged before 8 o'clock. That's when I usually try to start. And then I'm okay, depending on the day, being messaged, say, in the evening, but not usually after 6 or 7 in the evening. Now, I tend to just do that to other people, and that's something that I have to work on. But a lot of times I'm like, okay, well, I'm starting to go do my workout. People are messaging me right now. If I'm in my workout, I shouldn't really respond to them. I just say, hey, I'm in my workout. I'll get to this tomorrow. So a little bit of that is me, a little bit of that is them, a little bit of me is not communicating what my boundaries are. That usually around 6 o'clock, I like to work out. If you want to message me at 8 o'clock, that's fine. It doesn't really bother me. It's just during the workouting time, I can get a little bit frustrated. And so the problem that arises is that if I get frustrated in that situation, I don't ask a lot of questions to try to solve it, because questions take longer vis-a-vis text message, they take longer vis-a-vis email, and phone calls can usually clear those things up. That's why a lot of the times, and this frustrates people, I'm like, just book time on my calendar, we can go over it, but they want an answer now, but it's not feasible for me to have a conversation with you. So what's going to end up happening, or I feel that ends up happening, is I'm going to ask a bunch of questions through text message. You're not going to be able to respond to them. You're not going to get the answer or the solution that you want fast enough. And that leads to me then being frustrated, which isn't really the other person's fault. It's more of my fault. So again, it is about setting the intention or the expectation that I am not going to respond to those emergency issues, or when I'm going to respond to them, and then staying to that, and then them having to wait for that to specifically happen. Because again, a lot of people take situations that are arising and they turn their emergency into your emergency, or if it is an emergency, that's okay. But a lot of the times the emergencies can be worked on a little bit later, and we can fix things after they have happened. Okay. Now in this situation, it affected other team members. So it might've been a situation where I said, okay, let's figure this first thing in the morning. Or what I could say is, I'm going to work on this tonight. Or I can work on it in another time. The other thing that I was thinking about in regards to this is, it might have been okay to work on it at the specific time that the situation happened. But the problem is there was no expectation for what counts as a crisis and what crisis management looks like inside of the organization. So again, after this specific instance happened, I went and used Claude to come up with a pathway for me to get a better understanding of crisis situations or crisis and leadership, so that then I could manage better these situations, because these situations come up not only in this business, but other businesses that I have as well. So it seems like something that could be beneficial. And one of the things that I thought that could be beneficial in this is, okay, well, is this a crisis? If it is, then it follows these steps, in which case other people would have the expectation that they're going to be bothered. So again, it all still comes back to expectations. Okay. One of the things too that happens in these is people tend to focus on solutions and not blame. That's not an issue that I have. I'm not really into blaming other people. I'm more into finding the solution, but take it for what you want. Focus on solutions, not on blame. It doesn't really matter how this problem happened. It just matters that we fix the problem. Okay. I will say one thing. If the problem continues to happen, right, and there over and over again, it's important to think about, because then maybe you need to do some type of accountability measure, or I don't know, corrective action for the individual that is doing it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with corrective action in individuals. I think it just is a part of, what could we have done better in this situation? This has happened this many times. What could we do to fix it? Let's notate this and see if it happens again, because again, we still are managing people in all of these situations. But again, I feel that CEOs should have corrective action too. I guess they do. I guess the board does that. All right, well, I'm going to get back on track now. Okay, so train emotional endurance like a muscle. Difficult conversations become easier through repetition, reflection, and self-awareness. Again, self-awareness. The best leaders and the best people in the world that are the thinkers and the best strategists, managers, leaders, I guess, there are people that can see the things that they're doing as much as they can. If you don't think that you have good self-awareness, that is a good idea is to ask other people about the situation. What could you have done better in this situation? Am I coming off this specific way? I need to know so that I can be better. That's something I try to do as much as I possibly can, because again, I am only 43 years old. I have another 30 years of doing badass stuff, and then and probably more than that, 40 years of doing badass stuff, hopefully 50 years if I'm super lucky, 100 years if we can get to the singularity. But the point is that you have to if you have no reflection on yourself, then you're never ever going to get better. There has to be reflection on the things that you do. I reflect on me being a finance leader. I reflect on me being a bookkeeper. I reflect on me being, the finance CFO. Reflect on being the CMO of Merlin. Reflect on being the operations officer of Merlin. Reflect on going Q Financial. What could I be doing better? There has to be reflection and self-awareness. And one of the best ways to think about those things, at least for me, is to do a podcast and or journal. The other thing that happens is protecting your physical state and stress. So again, going back to me being kind of pissy in these situations and not thinking clearly, is making sure that you're sleeping correctly. Now, my sleep performance is at a 79% on my Whoop, which is 4% higher than last month. So I know that this has been something that I've worked on, and I'd hope that I'm getting better at it. But the problem with sleep, exercising, hunger, overstimulation is you tend to burn out more. And the more that you burn out, the more that you are going into that masculine energy, and you need to get back into that feminine energy, which is a lot more restorative and thoughtful. And so again, I encourage everybody, if you don't have one, get a Whoop. Get a Galaxy ring or an Aura ring and start managing your performance, or F it, just sleep and take care of yourself, I guess would be better. You don't need to go and spend $500 like I did. And so with that, those are some of the things that I'm working on to be less angry in difficult situations and managing better and communicating better. And what's interesting about it is maybe I am too hard on myself or think about it. Maybe other people don't think that I'm as angry as I feel sometimes, or maybe they don't have a problem with as much as I have. I just know that I have a lot of things that I'm going to accomplish in this world that are in leadership positions that I'm moving for. And I get frustrated when I don't always get the outcome from myself that I want. It doesn't have to be the outcome that I want. I mean, the outcome of how I'm handling the situation that I want. And I'm always constantly trying to improve that and reflect upon it so I can continue to reach the goals for myself and for my businesses. And with that, be thankful, grateful, and kind, and we'll talk with you next time. Bye.
To believe you are real. Tell me, how does it feel? Tell me, how does it feel? I see the meaning of life in your eyes. It's like swimming in the ocean at night. And when I'm with you, it's like I'm on fire. Nothing is real outside myself and your smile lines. Bring me down with sweet soft sound. My name, the way it sparkles when it leaves your mouth. Fill my soul